Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all that you're doing for self-mastery and service. I'd like to indicate that our presentation today is entitled Temple 3, the Dedication and Consecration of a Medieval Church. Prepare us for that. I'll bring up a slide that'll help lead us into our meditation. At this time, you'll be seeing an inspiring image of one of the great medieval cathedrals, one of the great Notre Dame cathedrals of northern France, Chartres Cathedral, which I know many of you have visited and been inspired by. You know, it's striking that in this concept of temple, it's a very important one to the mystic and the human being in general. And in this presentation, we'll experience again the awe-inspiring concept of the temple and how to become a master in the holy temple, the body, and a worker in the divine laboratory, the cosmos. These are essential things to the Rosicrucian studies. Indeed, we'll explore the Rosicrucian laws and principles applied by the concept of the temple, and the experience of the temple. And we'll do so today by examining the many intriguing ways by which a medieval church was dedicated and consecrated. It's striking too that in the book by past imperator Ralph M. Lewis, writing under the pen name of Valudvar, the Whisperings of Self book, he has some very profound aphorisms from his attunement with the master within. And one reads as follows, which is very fitting to show you with this image before you. The power of a sacred place lies not in its form or tradition alone, but in the higher state of consciousness it can invoke in you. You'll see that shortly in our meditation, we're going to ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum, which could be visualized as Chartres Cathedral or one of the other great Notre Dame cathedrals like Notre Dame of Paris, or some other sacred place, no matter what tradition that is suitable for you in the spiritual traditions of the world, or in non-religious temples, such as the inspiring Grand Temple at Rosicrucian Park, or maybe an inspiring place in nature. They all follow what Valudvar, past imperator Ralph M. Lewis, is saying to us, is that if we can have that awe that's invoked within us, that allows us to contact the divine within, the master within, and feel our true guide in life. And this is a way at the heart of seeing the inspiring view of a great cathedral like this. And we'll elaborate on this more during our presentation. But to prepare ourselves, let us first have a period of meditation, as is our practice. I invite you at this time close your eyes after having viewed the inspiring view of Chartres Cathedral. And just take some gentle breaths, maybe a little deeper than you're used to doing, but exhale a little longer. Extend the exhalation. That'll invigorate all the more the relaxation response, which stimulates the vagus nerve. All these things are part of the wisdom of the body. They're there for a purpose. These are tools we can use no matter what's going on in our life. Extend the outgoing breath and feel the deep calm. And you also can feel an awe, just as we felt for the view of Chartres Cathedral, but an awe of the holy temple that is our body, that mirrors and matched by the law of correspondence, Chartres Cathedral, and the great temples of architecture of the world. And indeed, the macrocosmic temple, the temple of God, the cosmos. They're all interlinked in a profoundly meaningful way. These are great signs for us to know how to live and what it is to be a human being. Just continue to enjoy the gentle rhythms of the breath, the work of the holy temple. And with each incoming of the breath, you can feel the decreasing presence of the divine within, the master within, our true nature and guide in life. Our body, the holy temple, likes to relax. It likes to be calm. Allows us to be more receptive to our true divine nature. This is a very simple form of meditation, but a very profound one. Always available to us, no matter what's going on in our life. Soon we'll ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum, inspired by our view of this Chartres Cathedral, one of the great temples on the face of the earth, the temple of the earth. Just take some time to check in with yourself, whatever's been going on in your day. Use this time as meditation, as a time of non-avoidance, time for novel thoughts, for breakthroughs and understanding. For helping integrate all our faculties, which is truly their nature. Time to give us courage to embrace whatever it is we need to face and enjoy in self-mastery its resolution. Whatever has been going on today, just review it briefly with your breaths. And use this as a time to be soothed and regenerated and re-energized. And then gently come back to the rhythm of the breath. You find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently go back to the gentle rhythm of your breath. Just keep letting go and surrendering. Whatever thoughts come to mind, just let them go. Turn back the focus on the breath and the increasing presence of the divine within. It's a profoundly meaningful act and a deeply enjoyable one. That the passing interests and fads of the day can't approach. Now, to begin our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum, we'll follow a key meditation booklet of the Rosicrucians, Liber 777, which will give you resources for later through Karen in the chat. Now, with your spine upright, hands in your laps, palms down, or however you're comfortably situated, ensure that you can breathe in a continuing, unencumbered way. And let us have a prayer and invocation to begin our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum and apply the inspiring concept of the temple. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now, fratres and sorors and participants, let us turn ever more inward and use all our imagination and psychic faculties to picture ourselves rising up from the room where we are. Up out from the room, even up out from the house, and be looking down on the roof and start to see, as we rise up higher and higher, our neighborhood and all its system and order, And as we go ascend, we can radiate love and well-being out to our neighbors, both human and non-human. And keep rising up and seeing your geographic area, maybe your town or your city, and see all its system and order. And let us keep rising up using great inner spiritual force, following the charge of past Grand Master Robert Daniels to use great inner spiritual energy and force to rise up to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Now is not a time to be passive. Let us be active, but let us be drawn up by the infinite resources of the divine within. Let us now see as we rise up our province or state and the landforms that are there. Enjoy the beauty of it and keep rising up and see your country or great nation and all the landforms below, the weather systems, the great system and harmony of it all. And keep rising up and see the continent where you dwell, and now the hemisphere, and now the great oblate spheroid or ball-like object, beautiful blue jewel of the earth itself, the temple of the earth, revolving about its axis. Great system and order. And continue to radiate down to all those below, love and well-being. On the spaceship Earth moving around in an elliptical orbit, the great fiery ball of the sun. Similarly done the orbits, the huge planet of Jupiter, the awe-inspiring planet Saturn with its rings, the smaller planets, Mercury, Mars and Venus and more. Feel their psychic impressions that they radiate out and radiate back to them love and well-being in your psychic nature, enriched and ennobled by the handiwork of the divine. As we look up and travel faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light as we transcend space and time, and see the myriad stellar phenomena, other stars, some larger, some smaller than our star, the sun, black holes that help balance the universe, pulsars and quasars, and supernova with a great burst of light. Similar to the great light that is within us, the invisible sun. Let us keep rising up higher and higher and take in the nebula and the interstellar gases, great music of the cosmos, a harmony of the spheres, experiencing things on the full range of what the Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic keyboard, not only things that are perceptible to our physical senses, but also to our inner psychic nature and higher octaves of the cosmic keyboard. Take in the wonder and exhilaration of it all as we keep rising up higher and higher, encompassing further and further away from the temple of the earth. Start to sense our even greater home in the great galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy with its great spiraling arms, and exit right out from it, past all the myriad stars, and look back at the galaxy. See its great spiraling arms and its great motion, the great spinnings of the cosmos. And look up and see other galaxies and nebulae, some galaxies in a spiraling formations and other forms. Can you rise up faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light? Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent, the harmony of the spheres, which musicians and artists seek to imitate and match on Earth. Continue to pass many galaxies and stars and comets and rogue planets and asteroids. Marvel at the system and order of it all. For indeed, our entire universe is a great temple, the divine temple, the temple of God. Let us keep traveling faster and faster and farther, enjoying inwardly the exhilaration of the ascent, and apply the law of correspondences as we rise up into the cosmos and cosmos. We go deeper and deeper within ourselves as a mirrored action in the microcosm and macrocosm. Keep taking in more and more expanse of the universe and sense that it too is spinning, revolving about a great cosmic axis spoken of since ancient times. Sense the stupendous action of this rotation. All the galaxies and the clusters of galaxies and the superclusters of the clusters of galaxies, all revolving about a great cosmic axis, and speed towards the midpoint or center of that great cosmic axis. And as you come close to it, slow up. When you're ready, stop there at the great middle of the cosmic axis, at the center of the cosmos, at the center of our being. And visualize there, following the instructions of Liber 777, your personal celestial sanctum, your sacred temple. You may wish to picture it as Chartres Cathedral or a great Notre Dame Cathedral of northern France, or some other inspiring sacred structure that you know of, a Hindu mandir, a Buddhist stupa, a Jewish synagogue, or the Grand Temple at Rosicrucian Park in San Jose, California. Or maybe some inspiring place in nature, just the view of the inspiring cosmos all around you. Or maybe a sacred meadow or grove of trees, or inspiring scene by a lake or seashore, suggestive of the vibrations of the cosmos, or a high viewpoint from a hill or a mountain, suggestive of the expansive view of the divine within. Fill it in with all the sights and sounds, the smells. You wish to picture there others on this conference call with us, other Rosicrucian seekers, other spiritual and mystics, the officers of our order, the visible and invisible masters, possibly the grand masters and imperative of our order conducting a sacred convocation, possibly stained glass windows depicting Rosicrucian laws and principles and other mystical laws and principles that you know of. Fill in the sights and sounds, make it real, make it vital. Apply Rosicrucian exercise of visualization as well as meditation in this holy act. And when you have the sights and sounds and the various vibrations of a psychic nature filled in, and feel a degree of exhilaration, not only from rising up in the heights of the celestial sanctum, but going deep to your center in the great beauty of the celestial sanctum. Let it go, release it, surrender, and dwell the heights of the celestial sanctum in the presence of the divine within. Attuning with the cosmic. Cosmic Rosicrucians mean all the laws and principles of existence and the universal intelligence back of the cosmos. To surrender and let go at this deep, still center of your being. Let us dwell in the deepest silence and peace profound together now, fratres and sores and participants. If you find your mind wandering, just bring it back to the gentle rhythm of the breath. It's all part of the process. No need for self-negativity or judgment. With each returning to concentration on the breath and the stillness, increase our intentional control for self-mastership. Just enjoy the exhilaration of being at the heights of the celestial sanctum, their deep still center and peace profound. The increasing presence of the divine within as we surrender. Now, as we continue our meditation, let us join in the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, the Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order Amorc. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned this Council of Solace for healing and guidance in their life. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned your affiliate bodies of the Rosicrucian Order for healing and guidance, and all those you know who are in need of healing and guidance, and all sentient beings in need throughout the cosmos. Let us radiate love and well-being to them. Just let it flow from the heart center as an action of the divine within, not our outer self, but our inner self. Inner self and the divine within knows what to do. Just let love and well-being flow. Just like a great spotlight that's been covered up, removing the obstructions from it. Just let it flow. Great love and well-being within us to help heal all those in need. Just let it flow from you like a great beacon of light, or a great fountain of flowing, life-giving waters out to all in need. The depths of your being. Enjoy the exhilaration of the flow, enriching and ennobling. Ourselves and all in need. I think at a certain point too, you'll find that the flow speeds up. You know you're reaching those in need. And at a certain point, you'll no longer need to make any conscious effort. Flow will continue. When that occurs, just return back to dwelling in the deep stillness at the heights of the celestial sanctum. Receptive to any impressions come to you. Soon we'll conclude this period of metaphysical aid, but we'll continue our meditation a while longer. Assured that this way of life of radiating love and well-being to all in need will continue deep within us as an act of service, as part of our mission in life. We'll formally conclude this period of the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace by saying, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done, so mote it be. Now let us continue to dwell at the heights of the celestial sanctum, the deep, still center of our being, cosmic attunement, cosmic mind, and the divine within. Sense our mind becoming one with the cosmic mind, communing with our true nature, the divine within. Now for others and sorors and participants, we'll soon begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. Thankful for this period to be of service and to fulfill our birthright in cosmic attunement. Feeling regenerated, remade, re-enlivened, more fully ourselves. May wish to invoke the law of gratitude, which automatically invokes the law of cosmic attunement for all those who have loved us well and all those who have taught us well, for all those who have sacrificed for us. May we give back as they gave to us. Now let us begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum, moving at tremendous speed through the temple of the cosmos, the divine temple, past the superclusters of galaxies, many clusters of galaxies, myriad stars and stellar phenomena, the great beauty of it all, the great music of the cosmos, wondrous sea of vibrations, the great system and order. You need to pass many, many stars and galaxies and nebulae. See way in the distance, the great spiraling galaxy, the Milky Way, our home. And enter back into the great arm where our home is. And continue to pass through many stars and comets and rogue planets and asteroids. And see in way in the distance, the beautiful elliptical orbits of the planets of our solar system. See the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, the temple of the earth. And come to it in the hemisphere where we left off, the continent, the country or great nation, our city or state, and our province or state, and then our city or geographic area. Let us say a prayer and invocation together before we conclude this period of meditation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum, so mote it be. Let us continue to ascend further into our neighborhood, our home or dwelling where we left off, the room, chair, bed, or however we're situated. You may wish to stretch, holy temple, and open your eyes all the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian this day, and all the more ready for your mission in life and discharge your duties. Remade, rejuvenated, regenerated. Thank you, fratres and sorors and participants. You'll see here on the slide a view of Chartres Cathedral continuing on your left, but also one of the great rose windows of that cathedral. In fact, that's the rose window that's in the south of the south transept here. If we were inside looking up from within, we'd see this great view on a sunny day. The stone in the background of the stained glass appears black, and occasionally it can appear like the glass is floating up there with the dynamic motions of the rotated squares. It's remarkable in this regard in thinking about the idea of a dedication, a consecration of medieval cathedral. Often a person's had an inspiring experience of a temple such as Chartres Cathedral, and then one wonders more, what does it all mean? Why did they do it that way? Why did they design it that way? Well, one of the best ways to find out about that, or one of the key and central ways, is that we're very fortunate from the medieval period to have texts in medieval Latin. And speaking particularly, thinking of Western Europe and Britain, that actually described how they dedicated their churches and temples. And they have central indications of what they were trying to achieve and why we today even have such uplifting experiences. In this regard, let me mention, if you've taken a course in art history and you get to the medieval period and they start to talk about Gothic architecture, such as you're seeing here in Chartres Cathedral, we'll talk about the Abbot Suger and the Abbey of Saint Denis in France. We're very fortunate with the Abbot Suger recorded various things about the dedication of that church at Saint Denis. And also about the purpose and meaning of a medieval church. And I'll quote him. Summarize more what he said. He describes an anagogical or mystical experience. He says, thus, when out of my delight in the beauty, the house of God, the loveliness of the many colored gems, such as the stained glass we see before us, has called me away from external cares, and worthy meditation has induced me to reflect, transferring that which is material to which that is immaterial, on the diversity of the sacred virtues. Then it seems to me that I see myself dwelling, as it were, in some strange region of the universe, which neither exists entirely in the slime of the earth, nor entirely in the purity of heaven, and that by the grace of God, I can be transformed from this inferior to that higher world in an anagogical or mystical manner. So he's describing in the Middle Ages very much an experience we just had in our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Now, to start moving more deeply into our presentation on the dedication and consecration of medieval church, I'm going to view things fairly widely, largely from the Latin West. The medieval period can be viewed from approximately the year 500 CE or AD to approximately 1500 AD or CE. The Renaissance period starting somewhat a little earlier in the 15th century in Florence. But many things going on in the medieval period, even in the 1500. You'll see before you here a Saxon medieval manuscript. And we see that here a bishop. For a bishop is the central one to dedicate a church, even today, as these traditions get passed down. And I think many of you may have had an experience. For many of it's a once in a lifetime experience of seeing a church dedicated. It's very interesting in this regard that St. Augustine and Augustine, if you prefer, talked about the inner spiritual meaning of the church dedication. It was considered a very important occasion for the church, and it would be commemorated annually thereafter. He mentions that everything that is done in a church at its dedication signifies an analogous operation in the soul. So you see, everything that I'm telling you about here is about you and your spiritual development. Seeing Chartres Cathedral in a way is seeing you, yourself as the holy temple, the divine within. The idea of the dedication of the church, as you see in a close-up view here, is that that's an inner spiritual operation. The medieval mystics and clergy tell us that, even in the early Christian period on. Now, the dedication, right, lies in its analogy to the mystical life. So as we go through different actions of the dedication consecration, we're talking about analogous operations that you have experienced and we will be experiencing as mystics on the path. So in a way we're dealing with a historic topic, yes, but in a way what we're dealing with is what you're doing now, here and now in your life and have been experiencing. Now, it was to show in the various actions of the dedication, to show the soul's transformation through love into an image of that which it loves. The ceremony was a ritualistic expression of a spiritual epic, a journey from darkness to light. We find various medieval mystics and clergy actually telling us about that in their sermons and their other writings. We don't have to surmise. You'll notice too in this image that there's various clergy and assistants and deacons assisting the bishop. In fact, there's a deacon all by themselves inside the church awaiting the celebrants to come in. And also you'll find masons and carpenters in the congregation waiting here to have come for this auspicious occasion of the dedication of a church. Often there'd be many other bishops would become. You know, churches in its etymology is partly associated with the word circuit. It is a wholly demarcated precinct. Similarly, the concept of the cathedral comes from the idea of the cathedra, the throne from Latin. Whose throne? The throne of the bishop. And it also signifies the apostolic succession through the apostles. The charge going back to Saint Peter and Jesus the Christ. We know that in our own mystical traditions, there's a continuation of the inner spiritual force through initiation. It's passed from initiator to initiate down through the generations of humanity. In this way, the integrity of the teachings are maintained, but they have it in an exoteric form within the medieval church and later tradition. It's important that note that the Rosicrucian order Amorc is not a religion. It's a mystical order that emphasizes the direct experience of the divine within. However, the teachings of the Rosicrucian order and systematic monographs and week-to-week exercises allows us to have a much deeper experience of all things, including the expressions of spirituality through the great religious teachings of the order, of the world, you should say. With the knocking at the door, it's very interesting to note that the bishop and the celebrants circumambulate the church. And this is associated with various important actions of the spiritual life. The first two ambulations that would be done, or circuits around, would be done in a counter sunwise direction. But the last or the third circumambulation would be done in a sunwise direction. And the reason for that is that the first circumambulation is for the Christ incarnation. The second is for his descent into hell. And the final one is for his resurrection. So we see in these from the mystical life are coming into our recognition of our divine nature. So you're approaching the trials and tribulations and lessons, but then the rebirth of the resurrection that we have. Also, the church symbolized not only the built edifice, but also ourselves that we're building up as a holy temple, but also the body of the community, and also the cosmos itself is the church. There'll be various antiphons and various things sung that conveying these meanings as these actions were undertaken. On the final knocking, the celebrants would be allowed to enter. You notice on the right, in sort of an analogous mystical way, we find an image that many of you are familiar with of an aspirant seeking entry to the Rosicrucian teachings. And we find the Rose Cross higher up here in the RC for the Rosicrucian or Rose Croix. The idea of knocking or portal, that's an important entry. Part of the symbolism of it is that we're crossing the threshold. The veil is being lifted somewhat. We're getting a greater expansive view of things. We're entering into the inner divine nature, which is part of the inner part of the church, or the inner church. And the deacon lets the bishop in after they've done their circumambulations. One of the first things that is done in passing in through the portals. Here you'll see a beautiful depiction of the portals of an Anglo-Norman church that's in Kilpeck in Hertfordshire. One of my professors, actually, when he was a teenager growing up in England, doing his O-levels, part of it is he took a course on medieval architecture and to do an essay on that. And then one of the books that referenced him, they showed him this picture, and he'd been thinking he was going to study the sciences, and particularly chemistry at university. But he took one look at this and he had a very powerful experience, and he knew that for the rest of his life, he wanted to study medieval architecture and its revival. And he applied himself tremendously and went on to be one of the most knowledgeable persons in the world of medieval architecture. It's a lot of wealth of symbolism. We could have a whole presentation on it here, but I wanted to show you the tree of life symbol. It's part of this, one of these beautiful portals. They're part of the sacred initiation of the aspirants during the dedication of this church. Here, before we make our entry in, with the circumambulations of the church, what would be commonly done is the bishop would mark 3 crosses in the 4 directions, east, west, north sides of the church or the cathedral. Many of those were commemorated later by what's called consecration crosses, as you'll see here in an English medieval church in the center area. If you're traveling and looking at churches, often you can find them. They're well documented as well. When the bishop came in, he would then mark 3 crosses in the 4 directions. So it could be in the transepts of the churches in a cruciform pattern. Here's showing a picture here from a manuscript showing the bishop ascending a ladder to mark the crosses higher up, but he has these officiants with him. It's very intriguing with the symbolism. All these things have an allegorical meaning. You'll notice the 3 crosses in the 4 directions is a reference to the heavenly city spoken in the book of Revelation. For the main dedication of a medieval church was that it was reenacting or the heavenly city, the heavenly Jerusalem on earth, which had 4 gates in the 3 directions with various many symbolisms, such as the 12 zodiacal signs, or the 12 tribes of Israel, relating to the tabernacle and the encampment in the wilderness, which was prefigured. Also, I know many have recently had fortune to have contact with the Grand Master on a special occasion where there was a threefold symbolism in the four directions of the temple. This is a cosmic pattern of a 12-fold nature. Again, with the entry of the bishop into the church, in a way, it's the divine within coming into the holy temple, just like in the first breath in our lives. The bishop would also continue on to do consecration of various liturgical parts of the church. For example, here's a later image after the Middle Ages with a bishop with his mitre forming crosses on the altar. Be one various sides on the top, typically be one in the center, one in the four quadrants of the earth on the rectilinear altar. All these things to do with the inner divine action. One of the other very intriguing things that were done, in addition to the consecration of parts within the church, such as an altar, would also be chalice and various liturgical accoutrements. For example, the chalice or cup that was used to celebrate the Mass, it would be consecrated. By consecration, they're referring to set aside to make sacred. By dedicate, often the word is often used to mean consecrate, but also dedicate can mean the church would be dedicated to God. Often there'd be a titular saint, it's true, such as at Durham Cathedral, north of England, to St. Cuthbert. But the church was dedicated to God in memory of this great worker, saint and mystic, and similar structure for other churches. One of the other very intriguing actions that you'll see commonly done even today, but during the Middle Ages, here's one that's from just after the medieval, a little later after the medieval period. You'll see a bishop here with the celebrants, and he's doing something very intriguing. They've laid out in dust or in ashes 2 large St. Andrew crosses that span the church. And the bishop then writes in that cross the letters of the Greek and Latin alphabets. And you can see in this here the inspiration of the divine presence to the angels. I'll show you a later date pictures of this. Here you'll find on the left dedication of Westminster Cathedral, not Westminster Abbey, the cathedral. There you see the great arm, St. Andrew's cross, that was formed there. The bishop with a staff will then form the letters. In one of the descriptions for the liturgical directions, including the dedication of church, you'll find an illustration here. The Latin alphabet and the Greek alphabet, that would be drawn on the floor from the south east liturgical corner to the northwest, and similar to the other cross here. There's various meanings of that. I can mention one of them is it's associated with the word of God through language. That the great cross that we come into the pattern of all things and how we grow and learn and manifest, and the spiritual teachings of God are given through the divine language symbolized here by the alphabet. Another very intriguing thing that's done that you might have seen at some time is that the stonemasons have certain special actions that are sometimes done at medieval cathedrals and later. Here from a late medieval document, you'll find the picture on the left here. If you look at the top, you'll find that there's boughs or tree branches coming out from the tower just below the spire. This is still done today by stonemasons. For example, when there was dedication in 1964, 1990 of the great Washington National Cathedral, it's done in the Gothic style in Washington, D.C. It was hauled up by crane tree boughs. There's a symbolism of, to the very heights of the church, a rebirth, the new growth of the plant, the tree, to symbolize new life. Now, these are some of the special actions that take place in a medieval church and later churches. They're all symbolic, though, the ones that take place of spiritual actions within ourselves. How do we know that? They tell us that. There's many, we're fortunate from the medieval period, particularly as moving into later centuries, that we have sermons on the dedication of a church. We have a book that was written by Bishop Durandus. I'll give you a reference for it in the chat, and certain other texts that go into great detail on individual symbolic meanings of a church. Here, many of you, I think, may recognize a view of the wondrous King's College Chapel at the University of Cambridge in Cambridge, England. The beautiful, spectacular fan vaulting from the late medieval period, and the great windows that were symbolic of the doctors of the church, those more enlightened teachers and mystics, the light flooding in, the ceiling, the vault to heaven, but also designed to give a sense of the great handiwork of the Creator, the patterns of which the masons made would edify them and build them up as they would become more spiritual aspirants to the work with the hands, increasingly emulating the divine. Now, I've mentioned some of the things that are done to consecrate a church and dedicate it, and how it relates to our own mystical journey. And we need to be always on the lookout, because there's great spiritual lessons always around us for us to gain and learn from. As I've mentioned, the medieval church was dedicated as the heavenly city, but it was also associated with Jacob's ladder. They sing to that in the medieval church dedication liturgy, that ladder that connects heaven to earth, our inner and outer natures, our outer self and inner self. But also the Temple of Solomon and how it was dedicated as part of the inspiration. Part of these methods for dedicating the church, they'll go back to the Roman rites that are pre-Christian, and also those in how Egyptian temples were dedicated as well. In conclusion, I'd like to say a few things, but first, I'd like Karen to post the resources in the chat. You'll get them both as chat text, but also, which maybe I think is the easiest for you to access, is a PDF of the resources. I'll mention that a church building was a similitude of the twice-born human, completing the mystical odyssey, having passed from night through the dawn and on to noon. In a way, it matched the dedication matched the practice of baptism, the purification, the process. And when there was a confirmation, the symbolism was taken to a climax, and figuratively, a regenerated soul had come forth from a spiritual offspring, a citizen of the heavenly Jerusalem, whose body was the temple of the Holy Spirit and whose heart was the altar of the Christ. These all have deep mystical understanding to us on the spiritual path. Indeed, we have experienced again the awe-inspiring concept of the temple and how to become a master in the holy temple, the body, and a worker in the divine laboratory, the cosmos. We've explored various Rosicrucian laws and principles in the process and applied these concepts for the experience of the temple. And we've done this through the slides and images and words, but also through the meditation exercise. I thank you again at this time for participating in this presentation. It's so great to be with you.